Welcome back to Retrial. My name is Elle, for those of you who are new here, and I am the host of Retrial, founder and CEO of the Counselle Collection, and a very newly solo attorney at Assistance of Counsel. And I am so excited to be recording with this amazing lady. I'll let her introduce herself and tell us a little bit about herself in a second. But I am joined today by Miss Amanda Ross, and she is from JD Advising, a company we all know and love. And I'll stop rambling and I'll let Amanda tell us about herself.
Hello, everybody. So, as Elle said, my name is Amanda Ross. I'm the Director of Partnership Development here at JD Advising, but I'm also a course instructor and a tutor. I've been here in some capacity for the last 5 years. I absolutely love that. Oops, sorry. Don't mind all the noises that are happening here. So,
Same.
before I was at JD Advising, I went to law school at Brooklyn Law School in New York City. I worked in big law for a while, which was fun. I then was an assistant public defender in upstate New York, and I also clerked. So basically, before this, I did all the types of litigation, but I'm so happy to be at JD Advising is by far my favorite job. And honestly, I'm so happy to be here today and talk a little bit about the bar exam and repeat takers. So thank you, Elle, for inviting me.
Of course, and thank you so much for joining me. So, yes, as you know, and as the audience knows, Retrial was started. It wasn't even supposed to be a podcast, but here we are. Retrial was started to kind of take some of the take some of the sting out of not having passed the bar on your first try, or some of us, it took several tries. And as I've been going through this journey, I've been noticing some of the same things. I mean, obviously from my own retaker journey, but I've been noticing a lot of the same kind of pitfalls. And I want to pick your brain, for lack of a better phrase, about some of these common pitfalls of repeat takers. So, on average, how many, like, what's your ratio? Do you work primarily with repeat takers, first time takers, or is there like an even mix?
So honestly, I have worked personally with over 100 students, and I will say that the majority of them have been repeat takers. Over the last couple of years, though, definitely have gotten more first-time takers, but my personal tutor schedule is I would probably say about 90% of them were repeat takers and about 10% were first time takers. I enjoy working with repeat takers, being a more advanced tutor and kind of having a schedule that fills up quickly. I do like to reserve my time for repeat takers, honestly, because I love my first time takers, but I know I can definitely be helpful with repeat takers. So as a company, it's probably 60-40, but personally, I do like to keep myself kind of with the repeat takers. Don't, again, every single season though, I do at least, even for February, at least have one first time taker, but I do really enjoy working with repeat takers. And like you said, there are a lot of commonalities between them. So I'm so happy you invited me today to talk about it because honestly, the first session I have with repeat takers is about the common pitfalls, right? I want to set them on the right track. So having this conversation before they meet with me is fabulous.
Right. And that's the goal because, again, everybody knows this. I was a repeat taker, and I guess maybe because hindsight is 2020, I didn't realize that I was, kind of falling into those same habits. So, what would you say top five common pitfalls of repeat takers are?
Okay, so no particular order, right?
Yeah.
These will probably be the top five. The first one is you're doing things differently. You have a new mindset, you're changing the game, but as we get closer to the bar exam, you immediately fall back into bad habits. I see this happen every single year. I have fabulous repeat takers that are on their way to passing. They're absolutely killing it. And then we get about 3 to 4 weeks before the bar exam, and they immediately are falling back into their bad habits, right? The second kind of common pitfall, and we can talk about these in more detail, is doing the same exact thing that you did last time and expecting different results. Whether it's studying the same, whether it's using the same study materials, right? I see this every single time. It's like, look, there are things that we can keep from last time, but you cannot just do what you did last time and expect different results, right? Very, very common. And honestly, the third one, I get and I understand, but you haven't moved on from failing. You are emotionally still in a bad head place. You're not ready to take the bar exam. I always tell my students when they fail, they want to start studying immediately. I don't let them. I make them almost have a mourning period because if you haven't moved on from failing, there is almost a visceral reaction to studying again, and you're not committed to it. So I try and give them. And then the fourth reason, not running your own race. You are paying attention to what other people are doing. You are comparing yourself to what other people are doing. If your friend did 100 questions yesterday, you feel like you need to do 100 questions today. Just doing what you need to do is the best thing that you can do in studying for the bar exam. Don't compare yourself to what other people are doing because it may not work for you. And honestly, it doesn't even work for them, you know? And then the fifth reason drives me insane every single year. I just fought with students about this constantly, practicing just to practice. They think if they hit this arbitrary number of multiple choice questions that they're immediately going to pass the bar exam, right? So those are probably the top five reasons, like the common pitfalls that I see people. So Elle, whichever one you want to talk about, let's just jump into, but those are kind of the summary of I really want you guys to just be aware of those pitfalls. And honestly, some you may not even know, right? Like you said.
You know what? I want to I want to go to the one that's kind of selfish, but I want to go to the one that again is part of the reason why I even started this, not moving on from failing.
Mhm.
You and I talked about this, so like it
Of course.
still stings a little bit, but I still like I need to explore this more in therapy, but like I'm still trying to get over that sting of not having passed in my preferred jurisdiction. And like, what does that look like? How often do you see that? And like, what does that look like for the folks that you work with?
So there's kind of two situations, right? Some people carry it even post passing the bar exam, right? And I just want to talk to those people, including you, Elle, and just no one has ever asked my bar exam score except JD advising. And I have never cared about anyone else's bar exam score except my husband's because I had to make sure I beat him. And just so everyone knows, I did get a higher score. But honestly, he beat me in the MEE, right? So like maybe I shouldn't have looked, but no one cares what your bar exam score was. I worked when I was an assistant public defender. Our public defender had failed the bar exam 4 times. He was my boss. He made more money than me. No one cared about that. The only reason I know that he failed multiple times was when I got this job. He explained to me how he's like, oh, that's a great thing to do. You know, I struggled with the bar exam, and it was only after working for him for 4 or 5 years when I left for this job that, you know, he kind of opened up to me. So I just want to make that clear. It's nothing to be embarrassed about. And also, no one cares, right? So if it is something that stings, just know no one's going to ask you, right? But also, it's not something to be embarrassed about. I just want to make that clear. So a lot of people, even after they, you know, pass, still kind of hold this embarrassment for it. I just want you guys not to, because again, my boss for many years had failed the bar multiple times and still was my boss. So no one cared that I passed it the first time, right? And then the second way I see this is again, I am generally your first call if a student fails, right? My schedule fills up very, very quickly. And because of that, when people find out they fail, I'm normally meeting with them, right? What I will see is that sometimes people haven't forgiven themselves, if that makes sense. They're very, very hard on themselves. And the problem with that is that the bar exam takes advantage of your insecurities, right? So if you are feeling like you're not smart enough to take this exam, if you're feeling that you don't know how to study, all those negative self-talks that honestly come after failing, they take advantage of it. And it sometimes becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because if you don't trust yourself to understand the law, right, or to know it, or I always have my students telling me, oh, they're just bad at multiple choice questions. I'm like, no, you're not. Be positive, right? They take advantage of that. And I know my student knows this stuff, but the second they sit down the MBE, that insecurity comes out. Right? Exactly. You get it, girl. That insecurity comes out and they choose the wrong answer. My biggest pet peeve, again, I have quite a few pet peeves, is when students are looking at multiple choice questions and they're looking at the answers, and there's some random answer of something they've never heard of, and they pick it. And I notice my repeat takers do that often because they're like, well, I didn't know it, so I picked it. It's like, girl, you've been studying for months. Like, trust yourself. If you haven't seen something, it's not right. But all of that is where the insecurities come in. So it's really, really hard because a lot of my tutoring sessions for my repeat takers are trying to build back up their confidence while also teaching them, right? Because I also have to be like, hey, this is where you need to improve, but I promise you can do this. So it's you have to know that you can do it. You have to remain confident in yourself and your abilities. If not, they take advantage of it. And then finally, sometimes people have spent money, they lose jobs for failing the bar exam, they lose opportunities, they have this embarrassment and things like that, that emotionally they don't give them enough time to heal. They don't give themselves enough time to heal. So I highly recommend before jumping into your second bar exam, if you're somebody who has failed more in the first one. I like joke with students slash like am very serious. Like give yourself one of those treat yourself like weeks. You eat the ice cream, you buy the purse. Like you are healing, okay? We are healing. We are letting ourselves wallow so that when we go back to the bar exam, you're ready for it emotionally. So any of those sound familiar, Al? I saw you nodding along a couple times.
Every single last one, every last one. And even after I got sworn in, and it's that little sting. And
Yeah,
I tell people, I'm just like, okay, well, why are you still crying about it? What are you going to do about this exam that you failed 2 years ago? It's okay.
yeah,
Even if it's not okay, what are you going to do about it? So it's
yeah.
kind of like that. It's like, again, that self-fulfilling prophecy is like a very vicious cycle. And I was cycling. I'm still cycling in some ways. And this whole podcast is exposure therapy. So I'm just like,
I get it.
I'm embarrassed. I feel like ashamed. I don't know. So instead of feeling like that and being quiet about it, I know other people are feeling this way. So let me just talk about it. And I really want our repeat takers to like, again, feel how you feel, but like feelings aren't facts. And you gotta move on, or at least fake it till you make it. But you kind of have to move on. Like the options are you wallow in this or you figure out a way to move past it. So,
I completely agree. I think that also too, I mean, we're all lawyers, right? Or soon to be lawyers. We're really, really taught to, hyper focus on our mistakes, right? That we're always self-critical. Most people are type A too, and it's a really hard thing to feel like you are ashamed, you're not enough, right? And we're already so judgmental of ourselves. It's so much easier said than to move on, right? But I think the best thing that you can be honest with yourselves is it's just a test, right? At the end of the day, it is this huge deal, but it's okay. You're going to pass it, right? Or you did pass it. It's fine that there was some hiccups along the way, right? And everybody makes them. Let me be honest with you, as someone who has used lawyers for other things in the past, right? Like nice little real estate lawyers. I'd rather my lawyer make their, mistake by failing the bar exam than in practice, right? Okay. So, like, trust me, it's not, no one cares, right? But you do. And I get that because we're all those type A personalities. But I really like the advice of just like moving on from it. It happened. There's nothing you can do about it. And for my mental health on the daily, I always ask myself, what am I really anxious about? Can I do anything? Nope. All right. The best I can do. And for anybody else is be a great lawyer, right? Because there are phenomenal lawyers who were repeat takers, and there are terrible lawyers who pass on the first time. So, but no judgment to you guys,
yeah, judgment-free zone. Always
right?
judgment-free zone. Let's see. Let's talk about falling back into the bad habits. What does that look like for a lot of the folks that you work with?
I love all my students. I love all my students, but I'm gonna call some of you out right now. Okay. Back when I was a baby tutor, I used to let my students kind of have like the last 2 weeks of review for themselves, right? I used to be like, that's totally fine. Till one year, one year, I had a lovely student. We had a lot of time together, a lot of sessions together, and he was a repeat taker. And the last 2 weeks, again, he was somebody who really practiced rather than understanding and memorizing. Like he thought practice was what you need to do. So I had spent months with this individual, kind of re-changing how he studied, figuring out the best ways for him to study and memorize and everything. So I thought, oh, we were great. I was like, we're good. You're going to be great for the last 2 weeks of the bar exam. I am somebody who, once my students no longer have sessions with me, I'm still going to check in, make sure everything's good, right? Started checking in on him, starting to realize he's doing a lot of practice and less of memorizing and reviewing these last 2 weeks. Okay, like maybe, practice is good, but let's focus on what we need to do. Everything went out. He just practiced and practiced. He gets his bar results back and he fails a second time now. And I, talked to him. I was like, he asked, he's like, can you be my tutor again? I was like, of course. Like, what happened? We were doing so good. He then really explains how those last 2 weeks was no review, no learning, just practicing and just practicing multiple choice, not essays, nothing else, just practicing multiple choice. And I was like, that is what we knew, that's what went wrong. But he's like, the more anxious I got by the end, the more I kind of did what I did before. Like it felt comfortable for him. And what I was telling him to do wasn't very comfortable, wasn't familiar to him. So second time I get his essays back and I was like, sweetheart, this is not how you write. We changed this. Again, on the exam, went back into those bad habits. So we are studying for the third bar exam, and my entire goal with him was, you are no longer allowed. Like, let's write down everything that we did both times that led us to fail, and let's change that, right? And I made sure that I checked with him every other day the last 2 weeks before the bar exam, just to make sure he was on schedule. Because again, as he started to get anxious, he wanted to go back to practicing, but he knew this time I literally made him write down those habits on a sticky note to be like, I will not just practice to practice, right? I will not stop writing essays the last 2 weeks, things like that. And he was very successful. He passed the bar exam and it was fabulous to see. But he was one of my stories where it was like everything was going great. But the second he got nervous, he wanted something familiar, right? And I get that. I understand it. You have to fight it because your anxiety sometimes wants to keep you in this comfortable box, right? And that's where he's just like, if I do more practice, everyone tells me if I do more practice, I'm going to pass. And it's like, that is not your journey, sir. So my biggest recommendation for repeat takers is start to notice if things are working for you, try and keep them. As you get closer to the bar exam, you get more uncomfortable. You really have to be self-aware about what you're starting to do. I call it reactionary studying, kind of like reactionary parenting. Does that make sense? Like a lot of students will see a bad MBE score, right? Again, which is fine. We all have them. And all of a sudden now they're just focusing hyperly on MBEs, right? They're reactionary studying. And that's kind of what he was doing rather than studying what you need to study. So it's not just about bad habits, but it's also be aware about why you're doing what you're doing. Again, it's reactionary. So be hyper aware of that. I see that a lot. And again, it doesn't happen to everybody, but I will let everybody know that I officially plan out all of my students the last 2 weeks. I joke, I'm like, I own you. You are mine. You cannot make any decisions by yourself. I have written out exactly what I want you to do based on that one student. And then, I keep checking them in. And I think that that's why you want a good support system to kind of check you a little bit, not just to help your mental health, but also be like, hey, are you doing what you need to be doing? And kind of going back to the shame of sometimes failing the bar exam, you do exclude other people, right? Because you don't really want them included in your studying. I know it's scary, I know it's uncomfortable, but to stop you from going into these bad habits, you do want to let some people in, right? Like whether it's friends, you just kind of want to keep people going because the more your anxiety raises, the more you're doing what you shouldn't be doing, is kind of what I see a little bit. So I know it's scary, but do try and have someone check in on your mental health while you're studying, okay, guys?
Please, I beg.
Okay.
Okay.
Or after the bar exam, too. Just have your friends check in on your mental health, guys.
Yeah, it takes like 2 minutes to send a text. Hey, just checking in. How's it going? Are you alive? Are you okay? Send the smoke signal.
Reach out. I'm not okay. Oh my goodness. So many times in my bar exam would I reach out to a close friend and just cry and be like, this is not going well. Okay. But it helps. It really does help. No one's going to judge you. It is an anxious time. I think that to avoid those bad habits, just communicating with someone, it just sometimes it lowers your anxiety and you do what you need to do and you're not just studying reactively. So,
That feels so counterintuitive though. So like for me, when I get anxious, overstimulated, whatever, my instinct is to, okay, I need to run, I need to cry, I need to like get
yeah.
away from people. Like I don't want to rub this bad juju, this anxiety off on you by telling you about it for me. But I see how that is so like counterproductive. That's not helpful.
You're building walls and you're keeping your anxiety in. Where when you're sharing it with somebody else, you're kind of just sharing the burden, right? I'm not saying go hit up your other test takers, right? But just explain to somebody like, I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm feeling lost, or, after you got a bad score, just like telling someone about it, be like, I've been killing it. And then I did this one set and something happened. Hearing someone else be like, that's okay, you got five tests with good scores, you got one, like that's not a big deal, alleviate so much of that anxiety where you're right, we do have this instinct to build a wall around us and not let anybody in, but then we're trapped with all our badness. Like give it to other people. This is the one time in your life, well, this and probably after you have a kid, one time in your life where I fully give people permission to like trauma dump on those around you, right? Like fully be like, I need to focus. Let me just all these I want to give you my bad juju. Like I'm going to give it away, right? Like, but you have to be a little selfish. And part of it is honestly kind of unloading onto other people sometimes so that you feel better. It sounds selfish. It is selfish, but I want you to be selfish.
That's the time. Truly be as selfish as you need to be in that moment. It is
Yep.
okay.
Yeah.
If you have the right people around you, they should understand and they should be receptive and they should be okay with nobody is saying like call all day, every day and like just cry. You have to cry, but you also have to continue. This is the time to be selfish, especially as a retaker, right before you're like right as you're studying for the bar. Like they call it a village for a reason, right? So
Yep.
how are you gonna just block out the village? But then be so for me, I am very like hyper independent too. So it's just like if I need help, it feels almost like painful to admit that I need help.
Yep.
So, but what sense does that make? How are you going to be upset that people aren't helping you now? You have no help and you're doing everything by yourself and you're overwhelmed and you're sad and you're anxious and blah, blah, blah. But you didn't give anybody the opportunity to step up. You didn't give anybody the opportunity to help you.
Of course, of course. And when you are hyper independent too, people don't just reach out because it's always a no, right? So you don't have people they want to help you, but you have people in your life who respect you and respect your independence that unless you reach out to them, they think you're fine because it always has been fine. And if you haven't experienced this, and even experiencing as a repeat taker is different than just experiencing it, those people around you do not understand how mentally, physically, emotionally draining this experience is. So again, they're just like, oh, you're studying. They don't know that, you're crying over torts today. So yeah, it is definitely important for those of us who are hyper independent. This is the time when like let people in, right? Just let them know what's going on because it really does affect your study habits. I see it. I have students who I have to bombard to kind of let me in. And once they do, again, we're able to kind of work on things. But I'm like, no, you don't have an option. Like, I'm sorry. I need to know how you're doing. Like, I always start my session with like a little mental health check. And, a lot of people cry in sessions too, completely normal. Like, I'm like, we'll just get it out. And they apologize. It's like, why are you apologizing? It's completely normal to feel, let me take some of that from you, like I said, so that you can go back to studying. Because if you hold it all in, you're not going to focus. I always say it's better for studying if we just have our cry session and move on rather than you know, building up these feelings all day and not focusing. I'm just like, have your little mental breakdown and get back to work.
Yeah, and so it could prevent you from actually crying at the exam. Honestly, the matter of fact, the exam that I got like my transferable UBE score, I cried
So sorry.
on the way to the exam, during the breaks. And it's just like, ma'am. But then I went to the mall.
I get that.
But that should not be, that's not a normal experience, okay, people? Please help yourself.
Cry before, guys. Like, again, don't have the breakdown at the exam. You want to have them a little bit before. But honestly, I'm assuming, and you don't have to share this if you don't want to, but I'm assuming you kind of held all those feelings in. And then by the time you got to the bar exam, they were pouring out of you unnecessarily. So, yeah, basically, guys, don't do what Elle did. Get out those feelings before so that you're not hysterically crying there and during and after. It's fine, though. Hey, you passed, right? So.
Yeah. I'm working on it now. But like I'm just like, nope, I got this. It's okay. I don't need help. I don't need anything. You know that meme where it's like a little puppy is sitting at the table and like there's a coffee cup in front of them, I think, and the room around them is on fire and they're like, I'm fine. Everything's
Yeah.
fine.
Oh yeah. Every day. That's been every day of the last couple of weeks for me. But again, even I have a therapist. I can't recommend a therapist to all of you. Basically, if you are in law school or you've taken the bar, you're a lawyer, we all need a therapist, okay? Like that I had my therapist appointment yesterday. I'm feeling much better all of a sudden, but that was me before I saw her. I'm like, "Ooh, we're in a rough spot today, okay?" So yeah, for anyone listening, reach out. It really is important, and especially when you're at the bar exam, you're fragile, you do need to focus, and those feelings are going to come out whether you want them to or not, right? So,
Oh yeah, because listen, crying over a civil procedure essay was not on my bingo card.
very relatable.
That was not okay. Next pitfall I want to jump into is because we kind of sort of touched on practicing just to practice, but like
Yeah.
what does that mean?
This clear to anybody who is retaking the bar exam. This is my advice to you guys. Anytime you are practicing, I want you to think of it as a way for you to understand the law. A lot of times, students, especially with the MBE, just want to do question after question after question, and they see their score and they just put it off to the side. Anytime my students are practicing, it is a requirement that they are looking at the answer choices. Okay. I want them to learn why they got questions right, why they got questions wrong. And if you can't do that, then you're basically just practicing to practice. And that is just not useful, right? If anything, it just makes you tired. There is, again, usefulness in practicing, but it's about learning from it. It's not just doing. And I think a lot of people hear that you have to complete so many multiple choice questions and then you'll pass. And that's not the truth, right? I'd rather my students do less multiple choice questions if they're actually going to learn from them and look in the answer choices and things like that. So this is like very practical bar exam, right? Advice. But it's really important to know that just doing a question, just writing an essay is never enough if you don't find out the correction and you don't learn from it, right? When it gets closer to the bar exam, or, for some topics that my students have always struggled with, trust, for example, sometimes secure transactions, just to name like two that people generally have problems with. My advice is to read essays before they practice them. Like, I want you to learn from these old essays, learn how they ask attachment, learn how they ask about spendthrift trusts and things like that, right? So, again, instead of just doing 20 secure transaction essays, that's not going to help you if you don't know what these rules are. Read some and then do some practice. Again, make sure that you are not just checking off what you need to do. Because again, kind of running your own race, which we'll talk about possibly after, is that you hear other people are doing all these multiple choice, writing all these essays, and you think you need to. You're better off understanding the law, memorizing, and then practicing or using your practice for smaller sets. Like until the end, till the last month of the bar exam, I don't like my students doing more than 20 multiple choice questions in a sitting because after that number, they're not going to look at the answer choices. I know they're not. Like once we get up to 30 or 50, all of a sudden they'll just do them and then they won't live in the answer choices. The last month, I want you guys to do bigger practice, but before that, keep it at 20 for the first couple months of the bar exam. The last month, we can up our practice because at that point, you don't need to use as much of the MBE answers to know. You know the rules by that point. But before it, if I had you do 60 questions in one sitting on real property after you just learned real property, you're going to get all those questions wrong. And the ones you do get right, you're probably not going to know why you got them right. And you're not going to do 60 questions and then spend another 2 hours in the answer choices, right? So just be aware, everybody. That's what I mean by practicing to practice. And I do apologize. I know it's like very much advice for those of you who are about to take the bar exam, but listen to me because you're going to hear other people give you arbitrary numbers that if you complete this much, you'll pass. Not true. I've had students who have completed that much and still have failed. So don't do it.
Honestly, truly. And it does tie into not running your own race. So it wasn't until I completely like abandoned like traditional study schedules and like my full on like, I call them like the big three bar prep companies, like the big box ones, Barbary Themis, what's the other one? Kaplan.
Mhm.
It wasn't until I did not look at any of like Barbary's schedule, like I drove myself insane trying because there was like, now granted this was years ago, but there was like this like progress bar. And
Mhm.
like
There still is.
the thought of that gives me anxiety, high PTSD. But I kept on like every day trying to like hit whatever they said that we needed to hit. And then that caused another spiral because it's just like, okay, let's say I didn't hit it. It's just like, oh my God, you're gonna fail because you did not hit this. And now you're
Mm.
applying for this and now this. And then when I did hit it, sure, I hit the progress bar. I hit all the numbers, but I couldn't tell you what an attractive nuisance was if you paid me. Like,
Yep.
I knew nothing. I had nothing.
Oh, yeah. And I think that that is so difficult because you see your friends doing it too, right? And it's not just that you have these insane schedules. And I will be completely honest with you. I am I work with students who do all different companies, and I'm very judgmental of a lot of these schedules, right? Because they're just not realistic. And for the students that they are realistic, it's kind of rare, right? At that point. And honestly, if you talk to people, a lot of people who do pass don't follow those schedules. I always tell my students, I was like, you can try it out, but when or if it doesn't work, come to me. And they do because I'll come up with a much more individualized schedule, but it's daunting, right? Because it's very clear if you know, complete this number, you're going to pass. And that's just really not true. And also, not everybody learns the right way, for example, right? So you need to do what you need to do. You learn differently. That's fine. For example, I do not learn by lectures, which is funny because I'm a course instructor, right? But I've never learned by lectures. On my bar exam, again, because back in my day, they didn't have the completion bar. It was too long. Nothing was online, but they did have kind of you have to do these things today. In order to like fulfill my checklist, I would put the lecture at 3 speed in the back while I like read the outline. That's not helpful to anybody, right? Like, no, I wasn't really listening to it. And I knew I didn't learn by listening to lectures, but it was so ingrained to me to fulfill that checklist I had to do for the day that I literally distracted myself by just having this weird noise because you couldn't understand it, right? In the background. So something I always tell my students is let's talk about how you learn the best, right? Are you someone who's an audio visual learner? Again, for me, I learn by reading. So I always emphasize kind of, focusing on your outlines. And a lot of times for repeat takers, let me be frank with you. A lot of you don't need to rewatch lectures. You don't. You've watched them before. What I say is use lectures supplementally. If there's a subtopic that you just don't get, mortgages, for example, it's always mortgages that people need to like go watch the lecture, but just for mortgages. Don't sit there and subject yourself to something that is so passive that you're not really learning from. Just use the lectures to figure out what you don't know. And I think that, again, you see your friends. Well, I was just sitting in the secure transaction lecture for 6 hours, and you all of a sudden you're like, should I be watching lecture? No, no, you should not. If that is not how you learn, don't watch lectures. Or vice versa. If you're not somebody who really likes to learn by reading and you do need that like audio or visual, then go to the lectures. It's fine. Just law school, it starts in law school, right? I think we've talked about this before, where you are so surrounded by everybody doing the same thing and you're expected to learn the same way. And it's this very, lack of a better word, cult-like environment that, yep, when you go, and again, that's a whole nother thing too. Everybody's getting the same bar prep. And so everybody's doing the same bar prep. So you think you should be doing what they're doing, and it may not work for you, or like you get the materials, you're like, this is not really my vibe here. Like, what's going on? And you just keep doing it. So my best recommendation is that it takes strength, it takes honesty. Figure out what works for you, and it's don't compare yourself to people around you. The worst thing I can do is I hate it when my students say like, well, all my friends are done with so and so I should be there. It's like, no, 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 because you can actually explain the rules, your friends can't. So let's like don't compare yourself, guys. And this is a conversation not just for repeat takers, but for first time takers too. Please, to first time, just do your own thing. And repeat takers, same thing, do what is best for you. I think a lot of repeat takers hopefully know what's best for them, which is good. So just do it. And
Yeah, and what's crazy is so I knew even in law school, like I'm very similar. I do not learn with lectures. I I need to be hands-on. I need to be writing. I need to be reading in order for things to click and for things to stick. But everybody else was doing, one of the big three, and they were nailing their course. They were hitting that progress bar every day. And I'm just like, yikes. All right. Very obviously there is something wrong with me because I am not learning here, but everybody else is learning here. And so I went against what I knew worked best for me
it's
and then
hard.
kept doing it.
It's so hard because I see it all the time, and it's such a difficult thing because again, you feel, and it's not just, it's kind of ingrained in you, right? That if I do this, what they're telling me and what everyone else is doing, I too will pass. And it's again, that's just not how it works. And one of the things that, I do talk to a lot of my students about is that again, guys, your race. It's your race. Okay. I don't care how long it takes you to get to the end, but focus on what's best for you. No one else is around you. We're talking about you learning this material. I don't care what other people are doing. I don't care about these things. Like, let's just focus on us individually. And I think that when you kind of we talked earlier about having a support system, but again, there's a difference between comparing yourself to other people. When you kind of remove that competition, that what everyone else is doing and really just are honest with yourself, it's much easier to run your own race. And as for repeat takers, I think it does end up being a little bit easier, but first time takers, it's really hard to stop them from doing it. Like, please stop talking to your friends also taking the bar exam, like right now. Find new friends, guys. So,
Okay. Or you know what? Just have a set like a hard boundary. Like whenever you talk to your other law school friends or your friends who are studying, like, yeah, let's maybe talk about this last episode of The Lincoln Lawyer or something like that. But let's maybe not compare study progress.
yes. Or again, and I'm fine. I studied with two of my lovely law school friends who are still my friends to this day, but we never talked about what we were studying, where we were. We just were in the same room together. Because for us, it was a hard boundary. We didn't ask each other like questions. We didn't talk about what we were focusing on. We never talked about scores or things like that. We just kind of, because it gave us anxiety, we were just there, honestly, in a supportive thing where we would make sure each other ate, and had water. And that sounds funny, but I'm sure you all been there, So we all studied in the same room. And then one day, I will never forget this one day, another individual joined us in our little tiny study room that we were studying. And he wanted to talk about like trust and all this other. And they joke about it, but I snapped. I was like, you need to leave. I was like, this is not what we're doing here. Like, you need to go. In my defense, I was studying for the bar exam. I was not in a good headspace, but I literally, and they all thought it was hilarious. And to this day, I'm still friends with him. He'll like bring it up. He's like, remember the time you kicked me out of the study room? I was like, yes. And I don't regret it because he was doing that thing. What did you guys get on this? Like, how'd the S? I was like, do not speak of such. Okay. Like, we
Okay?
quietly sit next to each other and that's it. Like,
We are
what are
in
you doing?
community, okay? Not
Yeah.
competition, not comparison,
Thank you.
unity.
Yes, exactly. So he got kicked out of the room, and it was me who I just snapped. It was very rude of me. I was like, I'm sorry, you have to go. Like, it wasn't even like a question, just like, goodbye, thank you for attending, but no longer allowed here. So that was the last day he studied with us. But honestly, I don't need, so that's kind of what I mean to guys. Like, you are able to be around other people, that's fine, but keep those boundaries where you're like, I'm doing my thing. I don't want to know what you're doing. Because when you, regardless of if you're trying not to compare, when you hear what other people are doing, that's on, it's the same thing about like looking at your ex's Instagram. Okay. Don't do that. Right? It is though, right? It's like we're not stalking our exes anymore. It's not healthy. Okay. So don't ask your friends what they're doing. Just run your own race. And if you have to kick someone out of a study hall, listen to me. We're still friends. It's fine. They'll get over it.
They are your people, and they understand the temporary like psychosis that you may be experiencing while trying to study for this exam. Just saying.
Too honest though. Yes. Again, they still bring it up sometimes. No regrets though. Not a single regret. I'm like, you didn't, sorry, you weren't the vibe of the room. So, sir, you had to leave. Okay. My advice to everybody, just do what's best for you. Don't pay attention to anyone else. And also, this sounds weird, but I do want to mention this because I had a repeat taker this time around who had some difficulty because certain people who passed, she was like, they weren't studying. I saw their Instagram or Snapchats of them off. That goes to this too. You don't know their story. You don't know what happened. Those could be old pictures that they're showing off to other people. So even be aware of the other way too, not just people overdoing it, but when you see people underdoing it, right? You don't know, again, they may have their weird thing they're trying to flex for their non-law school friends or their law school friends and be like, look, I don't even care, I'm at the pool. Little do you know that they got that picture from like their sister or something. So just that's a side note because I had a student this time for the first time was like, I don't know how these people passed when they weren't studying. I was like, they may have been studying, but again, run your own race. I don't care what they were doing. They're not my student, right? They're not you. So don't focus on that, guys.
I'm happy you said that actually. That resonates because I was really upset for a long time that like I didn't pass, but I saw people who again, I don't know how you passed out of law school. Like who gave you that JD? I don't know.
We know those people. Yep.
Yes. But like they weren't studying, they were just off seemingly doing everything but what we were supposed to be doing.
Mhm.
And I was really upset now that I think about it. I was mad because it's just,
Yeah.
I tried so hard and so did not try. They didn't apply themselves. They did not work hard. They did nothing, but it's just like, mind your business.
Well, it's very much the run. It can distract you, just like someone who's overdoing it, getting mad about people who passed who seem like they underdid it can also derail your own race. It's like you got to have blinders to everything. And that's why I told my student, I was like, we are not focusing on them because the more you focus on them, the less you're focusing on what works for you and what doesn't work for you. But again, it's those feelings that you get, and they're completely valid to feel. But like you said, they're not fact and nothing you can do about it, no matter how unfair it is. And trust me, there are people who pass the bar exam. I'm like, ooh, there's something wrong with this world that like, I don't know what you did. But it's what happened, and there's nothing we can do about it. So you just have to focus on you. And again, I just want people to also know that it's okay to feel like that. Like you said, you're going to be mad, you're going to be jealous and confused. Most of us are sometimes. We all have people that we know that have passed the bar exam that we're both like, how? And also like a little bit like, how I did everything and you didn't. So super valid. But again, focus on your own race, guys. That's the best advice.
Please just mind your business. That's not your problem, whether they are like on the Amalfi Coast when they should be learning what a codicil is. Like that's okay. Feel how you feel. I get it, but mind your business.
Right?
That's
Every August, I still feel like this. I'm like, how do you have Amalfi Coast money? Like, I'm like, what are you doing? And I every August, just so everyone knows, I look at my Instagram. I'm just like, oh, we're just casually in Europe for a month. Like, that's cool. Like, good for you. And also, it's always post bar exam, so I'm like half of a human looking at their trips to Europe. So Yeah, I do need to mind my own business. And again, even as a grown-up adult, been a lawyer for almost a decade now, still need to mind my own business about a lot of those are people I went to law school with.
Yes, just mind your business, people. Let's dive into how can people avoid these pitfalls?
Okay, so we kind of talked about this, but I do want to give everybody like a one big thing for each of them. So, kind of to start with doing the same thing as last time,
Mhm.
I highly recommend what you want to do is you want to have a real self-reflection like day. You write down everything you did last time, and then you really look at the list and be honest with yourself. Did watching the lectures work for me? Did this amount of practice work for me? Did these study materials work for me? Like you're really going to write down everything you did and you're going to be very honest with yourself. And anything that didn't work, we're letting go. People have a hard time. It's the same thing about throwing things away. Like this does not spark joy. We're letting it go. Be honest. Don't take those with you. Okay. Anything that worked, yes, you can take with you. And then you're going to see the gaps, right? For example, study materials didn't really vibe with you. You had a hard time understanding your outlines. Okay. You now know you need to seek different outlines, right? So it really helps you come up with a game plan. So that's what my best advice to do is the first thing is just write down a list of what you did last time, what didn't work, what did work, and then where are those gaps, right? And this is also another honest conversation with yourself. Are you able to decide this, right? Because some people can do this themselves, and that's amazing. Other people can't do this. And honestly, like we have something called like a bar exam consultation where this is literally what we do. We talk to you about what worked last time. We talk to you about what to do moving forward. It's just a how to study session, right? Be honest with yourself. You may need something like that, and that's fine. Again, that's like a one session thing. We then put you on your merry way type of a thing. So you got to do some self-reflecting. And if it's something you can't do, then reach out for assistance. Like it doesn't have to be with us, but just talk, even somebody else who is studying for the bar exam, listening to this podcast may help fill in those gaps, right? Just reach out to other resources if it's not something that you know how to make better. For example, again, with the outlines, are you like, all outlines look like this? No, they don't, but you may not know that, and that's okay. Reach out for those resources that do. That's my biggest recommendation about doing the same thing. It's not just about changing bar prep companies because it isn't. It's about a personal experience about how you study, what you did studying. So really, really take a reflection day to kind of get your life together, for lack of a better word, right? Next one, falling back into bad habits. We did talk about this. The best thing that you can do is self-awareness closer to the bar exam. We talked about this, reach out to your support system, but also I like my repeat taker students to really focus on what they've changed. For example, if you start to write essays differently, kind of note that to yourself. Be aware, like, oh, yeah, this is great. I'm getting higher scores, like, fabulous. I'm getting my essays down. And then be honest. When you do an essay under time conditions, what are you writing like? Are you writing like your new way of writing that you really like? Or all of a sudden, are you falling back into the way that you used to in the past, right? So these are called, I almost call these like weekly check-ins with how studying's going, right? Am I doing what I need to be doing? Again, ask yourself, am I reactory studying a little bit? So you get a bad score in MBE, ask yourself, am I studying or doing more MBE questions tomorrow because that was on my schedule, or am I doing it because of this bad score, right? So a lot of this is being honest with yourself. Again, if you need help, that's what we're there for, right? I had a student didn't love her MBE score, one MBE score. But God, she didn't love one. Again, she did fabulous for one MBE. She tells me, I'm gonna do 100 questions tomorrow. It's like, why? Well, I'm going to. It's like, that's not what's on your schedule. Like, why would you do 100 questions tomorrow? Well, I got, a 60 or so. It wasn't even a bad score, like a 59 or 60 on the multiple choice. It's like, okay, you're reactory studying. You want to do multiple choice tomorrow so you feel better and you get a higher score. But I was like, all you're going to do is honestly probably do worse because you just did 100 questions today. Like, why don't we focus on those subtopics that you kind of struggled with on the multiple choice and study those tomorrow? Like, that's the type of reactory studying I want. I don't want you just to do more multiple choice questions. So a lot of it is being honest with yourself. But again, you can also, go to other sources for some help to check you in because falling into bad habits, again, probably one of my most common pitfalls happens near the end of bar prep. So just keep track of what you're doing and when you get stressed, why you're doing it near the end of the bar exam, okay? Not moving on from failing. We talked, this is much easier said than done. In my best, again, my best advice for this is give yourself a mourning period. Really, really be honest and forgive yourself. Much easier said than done, but forgive yourself. You have to, and then move on. I think that just pushing it away, it may come back when you're practicing, right? So I like people to fully forgive themselves and be like, it's fine, it's not a big deal. And this may not be a process that happens during your mourning period, I say. It may be something that happens throughout the bar exam. I recently had a student who failed the bar exam, was horribly embarrassed by it. All of her friends passed, she failed. And we were doing group sessions, and she was attending the group sessions without showing her face, without showing her face. Finally, by the end, though, she starts showing her face in the group sessions and she knew people would know that she failed, but she got used to it by the end and was honestly very helpful in the group sessions because she had been working so hard, she had been studying so much, but you could tell how that embarrassment really, really kind of lasted for the first month of studying, month and a half. But eventually, as she got more confident, you could see her being more present in the group sessions, being a little bit more open, and just very much, again, making it clear that she was studying this time. Because at the beginning, it was very much, I think she was trying to keep it secret, but then she joined and she was extremely helpful. It's lovely to see that. So I don't expect everybody to move on immediately, but I do want everybody to gain their confidence back. So forgive yourself. And then your goal is not just studying, but it's gaining your self-confidence. So that's my recommendation for moving on from failing. Mourn and then work on gaining your confidence. The practice just to practice. I told you guys this, okay? Please, for the love of God, just make sure anytime you're practicing, you are also learning, okay? Like after your multiple choice, look at the answer choices. After you write an MEE, self-grade it, look at the answer choices against your answers, okay? Just like, and if you're doing too much practice, you can't do that. Now you're just practicing to practice, okay? That's it. And finally, not running your own race. Mind your business, guys. In this situation, boundaries, put up boundaries, be honest with everybody. You may have to block some people. You may have to, honestly, and that's completely okay. You may have to just hide some people on your feed or things like that. Like TikTok's toxic. You may have to block some accounts for the bar exam, that's okay. That's okay. Just you are allowed, like we said, this is the one time in your life, realistic. There's a couple of other times. You're allowed to be very selfish. Protect your peace, your energy. If you are somebody constantly comparing yourself to others or getting mad that these people passed and you did it, block them. We're not bringing that energy into this. So put up those boundaries when you need to. And even if it's with your friends, I told you that one man, again, came into my stuff, get away from me. I'm protecting my peace. They'll forgive you. It's fine. And it's also okay to be honest and be like, look, I don't want to talk about the bar exam with you. I don't want to know. I don't ask me how studying's going. Like, that's not what I want to discuss with you. I want to talk about Bridgerton. I want to, right? Like, let's chat like about something else. If you want to talk about the bar exam, that's totally fine. I'm just not the person to do it. You don't have to be mean like I was, but just be honest. It's like not, and there is no one's going to judge you for your honesty and your vulnerability when it comes to like, I don't want to talk about it. They get it. No one has ever in the history ever been like, I'm going to force you to talk about where you are at the bar exam. Like, that's not how it works. So just, no, thank you. Move on. So,
Immediately, no.
right? If they do, like, do not be their friend, okay? So, like, side advice, remove that person from your life. So that is probably how I recommend avoiding those pitfalls. And again, if this is something you're struggling with, like by yourself, one of the reasons I started this job, and I think I explained to Elle, is I had a miserable bar exam experience. My now husband, then boyfriend, was in the hospital for the entire time. I lost like 30 pounds. I would sweat when I thought about my bar exam. Like, I had such a miserable experience that part of the reasons I do what I do is so that no one has to go through the bar exam the way I did, right? I needed someone there. So I always, I like my job because I can be there for people. So it doesn't have to be a tutor, but there's just know that you can let people in, right? It's okay to ask for help. Again, avoid the toxicity of some people, but other people let them in. So, I just want everybody to know that if you feel like avoiding these pitfalls is something you need help with, that's fine. There's resources out there. Okay, guys? Please. Again, this podcast is a phenomenal resource. I wish this existed. Maybe I would have only lost 20 pounds instead of 30.
Hello. Yeah,
Right?
I think that's the goal. So I'm really hoping that, these, especially this one, I think this one's going to really resonate with folks. So yeah, I'm really just hoping like, listen, this does not have to be such a miserable experience. Like, I understand that we volunteer as tribute for a little bit of the torture because I mean, we went to law school and, crazy people do that. But like everything does not have to be this miserable, lonely, like God-forsaken experience.
Yeah, and these resources, again, like even just hearing people talk about how, hard it is, how draining it is, everything like that is really helpful. My students are shocked by this, but I will tell everybody this until I'm blue in the face. I have a child. I took the bar exam. I would much rather go through labor than sit through the bar exam again. I know it sounds shocking having done both. Labor any day of the week than the 2 day bar exam. Okay. That is how I think it's that difficult. I think it's emotionally draining. I think it's physically draining. And it is not an experience that I wish on people. And I know there's this voluntary aspect to it, but as somebody who has always felt that way from their own personal bar exam, when my students go through it, I've been on calls all the last couple days because I'm there for them. I know what it feels like. So I just want everybody to realize, you're not alone in it. And a lot of people look back with rose-colored glasses or are lying to you if they're like, it was fine. Also, no one's left the bar exam and thought they killed it, okay? I was like, oh, I failed. That's fine. Like it's happening. So just it's okay. Reach out, listen to these resources. Again, this podcast is a phenomenal place just to hear people talk about it and be honest about it. Because I think that, it is very sugar coated. It's again, it's labor. I'd rather go through childbirth. So everyone's clear how much I dislike the bar exam, okay?
Honestly, same. I mean, I'm not a mom yet, but I'd rather get a freaking root canal.
Mhm. Yes.
That is how bad I hate the bar.
Yes.
So,
So don't worry, guys. We hate it too. Again, it's part of our careers now, but that doesn't mean that we think it's a fun experience. So we're here for you. And that's another thing too, is like, reach out if you have questions, things like that. I'm always available to talk to people. Again, I probably have like 5 missed calls from students today. I try and keep my calendar pretty clear. And also too, just so you guys know, it's those support people reach back out to us too. Like I was on my delayed honeymoon with my husband in Punta Cana, like fielding calls from my students who figured out they passed, right? He's like, we are literally on vacation. I was like, yeah, but they passed. Like I need to know. Like we must speak to them and things like that. So like if you guys, those people that did support you, go back to them and tell them the good news or the bad, you know what I mean? Like let them know they've been through this emotional journey with you. Me telling my students, guys, call me, don't just disappear, okay?
yeah, honestly, same. Like, we want to know that, like, you're okay. You're on the other side of it.
Yes, exactly, exactly. It's like I feel like it. And every year, I'm sure you kind of feel like this, L, too, when you have these like mentees and my students. I kind of feel like I'm taking the bar exam with you guys. Like we're in this together. Don't leave me hanging, okay? Like, and again, if it's not successful, I told you my lovely student with the 2 weeks, I've had people who've come back to me and luckily for them, the second time they've all passed, right? But I've had 2 students who have come back to me after failing with me the first time and it's fine. Like, poor one of them, oh gosh, one of them had like 104 fever the day of the park, like worst night, right? Worst nightmare. 104 fever, this poor woman. Yes, but she passed the second time with me. But yeah, so things happen. But even if it's not good news, like talk to us because we're there for you, right? I just want people to know that. Like, we're here for you. j anything that happens, right? And even if you don't know, again, this is a great podcast too. If you have failed, or if you know somebody who failed and like you don't know how to approach the topic, send them this link. Seriously, it means more to them than you can imagine. And also it kind of lets the conversation start, right? You don't be like, hey, I heard you failed. How's everything going? But maybe just be like, hey, I have this resource you may found helpful. And then it opens up the door for them to talk to you if they want to, right? Because, let them come to you.
I would have really appreciated something like this and like somebody sending me this and just saying, hey, check this out. It may be helpful. And just so you know, it will be okay. I would have really appreciated that.
Exactly, exactly. Highly recommend that to anybody you guys know in your life because it is something. Honestly, I'm going to be real with you, Elle. All of my repeat takers, I'm going to kind of link them to you because this is something that's helpful for them. It really is. Just listening to this, knowing other people are out there, it just helps with everything. So there's a community, you guys are supported, and like I said, no one's ever cared at the end of the day, except unless you're married to someone petty like me, because I did look at my husband's scores, like I said, but I had to.
Of course, like that is like that's your
Right?
partner, but that's also like your arch nemesis
Thank
in
you.
competition. Like it's natural, it's normal. I'd be concerned if you didn't look.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And now when our daughter is old enough, I'm just gonna have to brag to her too and be like, well, mommy's, mommy did get a better bar exam score. So,
Yeah, exactly.
right? Does she know how to work the Wi-Fi? No, but that's what I want to make very clear too. I got a better score than him, but anywhere in our life, he's smarter than me. He's better at handling things. So it literally means nothing, guys.
I love that. What are your like overall tips and like final thoughts and farewells?
Oh, okay. Well, my final kind of thoughts for everybody is you do not need to isolate yourself if you fail the bar exam. That is the first instinct everybody has is to isolate themselves. You don't have to. There are so many free resources out there for you. We do webinars every year for people who fail the bar exam. Elle has this podcast. There's so many more. Just, you guys can I always say this. If you want to pass the bar exam, you can pass the bar exam. Your journey to passing it doesn't need to look like anybody else's, okay? So that's my last farewell thought is you can do it. Don't, again, doesn't matter what anyone else does. Your journey is your own.
That's
And I
right.
want to thank you, Elle, so much for having me on today. I really appreciate it. It's
Ah,
such a great thing to talk about. And I cannot make it more clear how much I love what you're doing. And I am just so happy that you, as a resource in this podcast, exists for my students. Like you provide something that I never could. So I just really appreciate you. Thank you.
and thank you so much for of course, your kind words, but thank you for coming on and like talking about this from a different perspective, like an expert witness. Please
Adding that to my resume.
do. But yeah, I think it's really important and it's going to be so helpful for people to hear from someone who's like, lack of a better phrase, like boots on the ground and like, this is what you do. And again, shining examples from both sides, from both ends of the spectrum that either way, it will be okay.
Mhm. Exactly, exactly. We're all gonna be miserable lawyers anyway, right? Like the finish line isn't that great, guys.
Well, yeah, don't get me started.
But again, solo practitioner, congratulations, the busiest and the most overworked of us all. So
Oh yeah, and it has been quite the roller coaster ride, but I wouldn't trade it. Really quick, tell people how they can find you.
of course, of course. So, Amanda Ross, guys, if you're interested in JD advising, come to our website, jdadvising.com. We have courses, we have tutoring, we have a phenomenal amount of supplements that I'm obsessed with. And we also have a ton of free webinars, guys, if you're interested. And if you like me talking, I do a lot of those webinars. And I also do them with Heather. So if you do hate me talking, Heather also does half of them. But just check us out. Honestly, it's a really, really good place to kind of figure out what you need moving forward. We have a specific repeat taker course as well. So if that's something you're interested in, just again, and if you ever want to contact me, info@jdadvising.com. Email them for basically all of your questions and they can get you in contact for me if you guys have any specific questions about repeat takers. I am always fielding emails and calls from everybody, so I would love to speak to some of you.
Awesome. And thank you so much for joining us. And thank you guys for tuning in and see you on the next one.